This is the China Terrace or China Bank in the northwest courtyard of the Spode Works in Stoke. Built in the 1830s, it was the first bone china factory in Britain. The production workflow was vertically tiered, beginning at basement level and culminating in mould making on the top floor. Robert Copeland was the last surviving Copeland family member.
They managed the London business. Josiah Spode and his son managed the Stoke-on-Trent business, and then after Spode II died in 1827, then William Copeland took over the management of the company as well, and then he died in 1825. So William Taylor Copeland, that's to say his son, who joined the partnership in London in 1824, he took over the business in 1833, and subsequently it became known as Copeland and Garrett, because there was no Spodes left in the business. W.T. Copeland was a Londoner, born and bred, and he was an alderman of the Bishopsgate ward, and in 1835 he was elected Lord Mayor of London, and so he was a very prominent merchant. He ran the company's business overseas as well, because a lot of the business was done from London overseas. At that time, the company in London was known as Spode and Copeland, whereas the business in Stoke-on-Trent became known as Copelands.
I visited the top floor with permission last year and spotted the fireplaces. The buildings are dilapidated and have pigeon ingress. The factory did not supply the coal, you had to bring your own. These are the best views of what is now a large courtyard. China clay was brought in by canal from Cornwall and was stored in the basement out of the rain. The cellar floor and walls were wallpapered with these Copeland tiles from about 1880 to avoid contamination with local dirt. I don't know much about this bell. I think it was largely decorative and not rung for the workers, but do leave a comment if you have further information. The great and the good regularly visited this site. This is Prince Charles in 1998. Similarly, this is the Spode workforce gathered opposite the terrace for speeches from directors and dignitaries. The director's block is almost untouched since the closure in 2008.
Some fancy
balustrades.
Okay, so these are just some offices for the Copelands, managing directors' offices there.
On the first floor is the Copeland MD's office. So Copeland's office was in here?
I think so, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Looks where the original blue room was,
And when you say the original blue room, I'm not quite sure what that means.
The blue room is the collection of ceramics.
Spode Blue Italian.
Yeah, but it's not just blue Italian, it's all blue, different patterns.
Oh, blue and white.
Some very rare things, maybe one-off pieces.
Right.
The collection still, that blue room collection still exists in the current museum. And that's just that blue room is just out of refurbishment as well.
Yeah. On the top floor was the Spode Blue Room. On the first floor was also the showroom for important retail and wholesale buyers. Room is concerned where they showed it to buyers, I guess.
That was downstairs.
That was downstairs.
Yeah,
So,
this is the family's sort of private museum post.
okay.
So they'd have their own collection on display. This is where they used to entertain the royal family when they visited from.
Interesting. And next to the Blue Room was the Copeland Private Art Gallery. So would it be like a boardroom, table and chairs, or?
So there was some glass, I've seen a picture where there were some glass cabinets that were plugged into these sockets. I think they used to change the configuration of the room around.
The China Kiln next to the director's block has a number of fascinating stories. What's now left does not really count as a pottery kiln. Here is what baiting fire mouths in an oven looks like from 1978.
The fires were baited as necessary,
some fire mouths receiving more coal than others, depending on the temperature to be reached, the design of the oven, and the direction of the wind. Conditions varied, and the fireman's skills in reading them were vital to the success of a firing. To begin with, the temperature was kept low while the moisture in the ware was driven out. Then baiting increased until, in about 48 hours, a maximum temperature of between 1,000 and 1,250 degrees centigrade was reached.
This larger courtyard was only created when a second china oven and a building that could have been used for packing was demolished in the 1960s. There was not much space here in the 1950s.
It was privileged to fire a bottle oven, actually, successfully, a biscuit bone china oven. I didn't do it for choice because the fireman was ill. And I went to the earthenware fireman and said, would you fire it? He said, well, I can't fire it, Robert. I've got 2 ovens to fire already, but I'll keep an eye on you. You do it. You've done it before. Well, I hadn't done it before, but I had, in fact, been round with the fireman, Jim Evans, and I'd taken copious notes as to what he did at each stage. I followed the whole of the firing with taking notes, so that it was a bit like a recipe. I was going round the pottery, I was going round the oven, looking at my notes. What do I do now? You know. But it was successful. It was a perfectly fired bottle oven, and people just couldn't understand how it was done, because you've got eight fire mouths, and you had to balance the heat from each one of these around the circular oven. You had to control the draft. It was a very, very highly skilled operation. Even though I said it, I did it. The fireman was doing it every week. And you judged the heat by looking through spy holes and things like that into the interior of the oven. I was walking past it one day. We were going to preserve it. We were going to put steel bands around it to protect it, because it was built in 1789, so we believe, the actual hovel, not the kiln inside. The kiln inside was usually probably rebuilt every 40 years or so, but the hovel on the outside, which is the characteristic shape, was built in 1789, and we thought we would preserve it. And so we'd given instructions to a local firm to put iron bands around it, which was quite a common way of protecting it. And I was walking past it, talking with somebody, and it occurred to me that we were going to lunch, and it occurred to me that it had looked as if it was bulging a little bit. So we went to lunch, came back, and later on I was walking with the clay manager along on the grass, and I shouldn't have been walking on the grass because the managing director didn't approve of walking on grass. And I was walking on the grass, and the very fact that I was walking on the grass enabled me to hear a rumble of thunder. But it was a blue sky, and I thought, that's not thunder, that's the bottle oven. So I ran with my friend, ran away from the bottle oven, and the whole of the hovel collapsed, just a tree falling just at the parallel route that I was taking. So fortunately nothing, no bricks fell off and hit me, but there was no puff of dust or anything. It was absolutely sodden with water. And so that was 1972 it fell down. And so we were left with just the kiln inside. And then the architect said that they should be pulled down because they're unsafe. So we've ended up with just the main foundations of the kiln.
This was the old restaurant.
This is the restaurant which was subsidised for employees. It was very popular on special occasions like Christmas, and it's reported that it did a cracking breakfast. Interesting staircase.
Yeah, there was a big hole in the roof, so it's rotting away, and then they've had to do the shell and core works because their substation's gone into this corner behind this wall.
Above the restaurant was also the wages office. Prior to this use, this was the figure making and painting shop. This is equally a very rare building. Workers would climb these 12 steps every week to collect their wages in cash. In a building that has been redeveloped, there is no signage here to signal this rare counting house. This is the procession picture in 1952 when wages were collected from the bank. We are not sure what development is going to take place in this area. The buildings are all Grade 2 listed, but they are not being maintained. I have put these 20 surprising facts together to remind you of the 200 years of amazing history that exists in this very small area. Please pass this on to council officials and the planners that are still working on this development. If you enjoyed this clip, please click the like button to encourage more to watch this video. Do subscribe to the channel for more videos of ceramic heritage like this. Thanks for watching.